Hello, and welcome to Your Health Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Peter Hogenkamp, and today we're going to discuss the health benefits of my favorite color, and that's green, baby. And though I mean, when I talk about green, I'm using as an analogy for the great out of doors. I said, but it turns out that the color green has health benefits in and of itself, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, yes, today, the health benefits of being outdoors. And to this end, I brought my favorite hydro flask that I always bring with me on hikes, and I wore my outdoor clothes, as opposed to the usual coat and tie. Kind of got to get in the mood, with some props, that kind of thing. But as I always try to do, I try to go back to, something from my life that was influential to me, and that is, I still remember now that I'm 58 years old and practicing medicine for 30 years. And this is some advice from my mother, who's 93, by the way, and still doing well. So when I was a kid, and I was, depressed or bored, or I was trying to work out some problem, either with my friends or my girlfriend, or, maybe I was having trouble with, my sports team, whatever it was, my mother's advice was always the same. Get some fresh air. I can hear her say that in my head about 100 times. And for the funny thing is, I've said the same thing to my kids a lot. I bet you a lot of you as parents or just friends have given that advice to your children or your friends or your spouse or something. Go outside and get some fresh air. And though my mom was dead right about the benefits of fresh air, there's a lot more to being outdoors in terms of your health than just the fresh air, although the fresh air is good for you, and we're going to get to that. So I wanted to start off with just good old sunlight. And, I think we all have a sense that we like the sun. If you're looking for evidence for that, supposition, why are there so many people that live in California, Arizona, New Mexico, North Carolina? There's been this great migration from places like the Northeast, where we're not known for our sunshine, to places like to the Sun Belt, the Southwest, the Pacific Ocean. These places are very sunny. People go there, and they've done it for a reason. And I think primarily that reason is that sunlight increases mood. When you're out in the sunshine, there are changes that take place neurochemically that improve your mood. For instance, when people have seasonal affective disorder, you may have seasonal affective disorder. You may know somebody that has seasonal affective disorder. What do we recommend as medical professionals? We recommend bright light therapy. Well, the sun is the original bright light. So I think most people realize they are in a better mood when they're outside. I like to tell people that I'm solar powered. I'm particularly sensitive to the sun. I've been in many situations in my life where getting out into the sunshine just brought about a dramatic improvement in my mood. The sun improves mood. Along the same lines, it's an anxiolytic. The sunshine light is an anxiolytic. And that makes sense. If it's going to improve your mood, it's probably going to decrease your anxiety. But there's some other benefits of sunshine. Number one, that you may have not thought of before. Sunlight increases your creativity. Sunlight actually rewires your neurosynaptic pathways, making you more creative. Sunshine actually it mitigates pain. It's part of when I talk to people about dealing with chronic pain. I like to talk about all these other things besides medications that help treat chronic pain. One of them is sunshine and being out of doors, and no doubt about it. Just wanted to make a little plug for my neighbor who's a historian in Rutland County, and he tells me that where we live, he lives right next to me, obviously because he's my neighbor, is the sunniest spot in northern New England, and that the old timers who lived there used to refer to it as either Miami, Vermont, or the banana belt. I thought that was very interesting. He told me that 25 years ago when we moved here. And I have noticed that the way the clouds move around the mountains right at the head of the valley where I am seems to separate the clouds and show off the sun. So we're the sunniest spot in northern New England, which includes Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So that's like in the tallest person in a school of midgets maybe. But my point is, sunshine is wonderful, and even in Vermont, especially if you live in Miami, Vermont, you can get a lot of sunshine, especially if you are able to have some flexibility with your schedule. All right, so the color green. It's very interesting because I was using that as an analogy. I also liked it, the color green, because one of my favorite books is The Color Purple. But the color green itself actually has mood boosting properties. In preparation for this talk, I was reading doing some research and reading some articles about how people, they set up some studies for kids who were mood depressed, and they varied their background. And when they were staring at green backgrounds, they reported their mood to be better. They also noted that kids who stared at green backgrounds did better on tests. They've also found that bicyclists who, on a stationary bike, who were looking into green backgrounds, actually biked better. People focus better when they answer test questions better when they're looking at green. And I think it's because, our minds, I've said this many before, I like to talk about the paleontological roots of medicine. And, we have evolved from hunter-gatherers who were outdoors all the time, looking at green spaces. This is how our brains work. This is what our brain is comfortable with. As my mom said, get some fresh air. And what she was talking about is get outside, see the greenery. These things are very important. So the outdoors is great in terms of improving your mood. And I talked about obviously you go outdoors to get sunshine. We talked about how, sunshine and light improve your mood. But there's other things as far as mood improvement that actually we should mention. Number one is the more time you spend outdoors, the lower the risk of mental health issues. And that goes across the board in terms of mood disorders and thought disorders. So if you are trying to decrease your risk of mental illness, you should definitely spend as much time as you can outdoors. When people have mental illness, that's also part of the treatment. Get outdoors. It's good for you. It relaxes your brain. Again, it goes back to how we are. I'm a descendant 300,000 years ago of some hunter-gatherer somewhere in Europe, and that's what we're comfortable with. Being outdoors is soothing. I think most people know that. That's why campgrounds are, every time I try to call a campground to get a reservation, they're full unless you call a year ahead of time. And I'm going to put a plug in. If you're a city planner or you're some type of government official, we should have more green spaces. That's what these places are called. They're called green spaces. And that's because of the health benefits that are conferred by greenery. So when you're outdoors, you tend to be more active. And I've talked before in previous episodes about the benefits of exercise on your mood, on your sense of well-being. And it's definitely easier to exercise when you're outside. Think about this. If you're inside your house, the sofa is there and the TV is there with the sound system. You've got a boom box. You've got a radio playing. You've got a whole pile of books to read. Hopefully one of them is the Vatican conspiracy. But there's so many other things to do right there. When you go outdoors, the things that you're there to do in front of you are active. They lend itself to exercise. And as we said, exercise is a great way to improve your mood, boost your sense of well-being. As I've mentioned before, one of the ways it does that is by causing your brain to produce endorphins and enkephalins, which are natural compounds that the brain produces during exercise that improve your mood and sense of well-being. They also improve pain, which is one of the reasons I talk about people who are in chronic pain to actually and we're going to have a show about dealing with chronic pain coming up. We're going to talk about some of these other ways to treat chronic pain other than medication. And again, one of them being outdoors, exercising to immerse your brain, to saturate your brain in these naturally produced endorphins and enkephalins, which are natural pain relievers. Alrighty. The other thing I liked about outdoors and exercise is there's no better way to overcome your exercise inertia than being outdoors. What is exercise inertia? Exercise inertia is what happened to me last night when I got home from a long day of work and I really wanted to go for a walk. And I tried to get my wife to take a walk, but she wasn't too pleased with the weather. And then I sat down, I started reading a book, and next thing you know, an hour had gone by and it's getting darker. But I happened to go outside for something. And once I was outside, all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm taking a walk. The outdoors lends itself to being active and exercising. And so that's another great reason to be out of doors. I've always loved that expression, out of doors, it means the same thing as outside or outdoors, but the out of doors, for some reason I just loved it. One last thing about out of doors exercise, for the most part it tends to be free because a lot of times when you're out of doors you're hiking, you're walking, I guess you could be biking or golfing. Those things require some cash as well. But there's so many things that you can do outdoors exercise-wise that are free, that you don't need a big budget for. And in this day and age, especially with how inflation is impacting everybody recently, I think free exercise is great. So I mentioned that the color green itself has mood-improving properties. I need to say, put out a prop for the color blue, because blue, probably from our marine, being the color of the ocean and sea, the color blue has the same benefits. When studied colors, the benefits that are provided by the color green are also provided by blue. And one of the old questions we always had when I was growing up is, mountains or ocean. In terms of where do you go to want to relax and unwind kind of thing. And my answer to that was always both. I love going to the ocean, I love going to the mountains, I love going to the woods. It's because of those two colors, green and blue. I wanted to talk next about cognition. Now, cognition is a word I use a lot. And I realized that not everyone may understand what I'm talking about on an exact level. And so therefore I looked up the definition, several definitions of cognition, and I thought this one was the best to me and made sense to me, and I hope it'll make sense to you. Cognition is the mental processes relating to the input and storage of information and how that information is used to guide our behavior. And that's a great way to understand what cognition is. So now that we understand cognition and what it is, you should understand that being out of doors helps your cognition tremendously. Number one is it helps our ability to concentrate and pay attention. These have been well studied. I won't bore you with the medical studies, but there's no doubt that your focus, concentration, and attention are improved when you're out of doors. And again, that's been well studied. Here's another thing. You sleep better when you spend time outdoors. In fact, your sleep efficiency, which is basically how much we sleep for the amount of time we're lying down, is actually greatly improved. There's a linear relationship between, on this axis, the amount of time you're outdoors, and this axis, your sleep efficiency. So the longer you're outdoors, in a linear fashion, the better your sleep efficiency. And who couldn't use more sleep efficiency? I used to tell people that being outdoors, you kind of earn your sleep. You're outdoors, the fresh air makes you tired, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It has a lot to do with, again, the paleontological roots of medicine, where we as hunter-gatherers, we spend a lot of time outdoors kind of thing, and it helps root your circadian rhythms. It also, you should understand that especially time outdoors first thing in the morning seems to be the most powerful thing in terms of keeping your circadian rhythms healthy, and also to help you burn more calories. So if you can somehow manage to get outdoors first thing in the morning, it improves your calorie burn all day long. And who doesn't want to burn more calories? I know I do for sure. The next subject is one that's kind of near and dear to my heart kind of thing. And I know you're going to say to yourself, how is this, in this mystery topic I'm going to announce pretty soon, how is this related to your health? And I'm going to explain that to you. So the other benefits of being outdoors is it improves the health of our planet. Yes, I'm talking about climate change. So it's well shown that the more a person spends time outdoors, the more they make climate-friendly decisions. So in other words, a guy that hikes all the time is more likely to buy a Prius than someone who doesn't. A guy that hikes that spends a lot of time fishing is less likely to pollute. You can go on and on with this type of decision-making kind of protocol, but it's true. So if you spend more time outside, and if we all did this en masse, then our planet would be a much healthier place. And not only is that, obviously a healthier planet is going to imply a healthier inhabitants of that planet. You can kind of sense that in a kind of an abstract fashion, but also in a very specific fashion. Think about air quality. Ask any person that you know, and I'm sure you know at least one or two people that struggle with their breathing, whether they're COPD, or whether they have asthma, whether they have restrictive lung disease, some type of lung problems. Ask them about air quality and their breathing. They'll be the first person to tell you that in days with poor air quality, they suffer from it. That's a very direct result of your health being improved your health being worsely affected by deteriorating air conditions. So keep that in mind. The health of the planet affects the health of its inhabitants, no doubt about it. So there's one last thing I wanted to mention to this end here, and that's about connectivity. We talked about connectivity a couple weeks ago or a couple shows ago when we were talking about aging well. And it turns out that people who are outdoors more, who connect to the environment more, these people, go on to make more decisions or better decisions to help the health of the planet. It just makes sense. It really does. So my prescription for you at this point in time is to, after you finish watching the show, go outside and take a walk. Set up a weekend to go camping next year. Rent a cottage on a lake. To those folks of us here in Vermont who are watching this program, there's a reason why we have so many people that come in from New York, from Boston, from Connecticut, from all over the place to have a home in Vermont, because they want a piece of this wonderful state which is so rich in the natural blessings that we have, the mountains, the streams, the lakes, the out of doors, trees, the color green. These are all blessings that we have. They're resources that we have as Vermonters. For us as Vermonters who don't have to go anywhere to utilize them, we really should be leading the way in this regard. And I want to tell you, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to go buy some groceries and I'm going to take a long walk. That's one of the things that I've done in my life in terms of my medical practice. I've always practiced what I preach. And I've always talked about exercise and being out of doors, and I've always done it. Because, it's probably, the thing that's, helped keep me as healthy as I am right now is being active, being in the out of doors. As my mom said, go out and get some fresh air. Alrighty. We talked about creativity. I want to mention that again because, as some of you may know, in addition to practicing medicine, being the husband to my lovely wife Lisa and the father to my lovely children, I also write. And it's something that I love to do, but it comes with its own problems. My solution for writer's block has always been to go out and take a walk, go skiing, go snowshoeing, get outside. Remember what I talked about, the fresh air and being out, not the fresh air necessarily in this case, but actually the being out of doors, it causes you to refocus your attention in new ways. And that's basically the definition of creativity. That's what creativity is. It's you're creating something, a new pathway, a new way of looking at something, a new story, a new painting, a new podcast. I've talked about the health benefits of creativity many times. It's especially important in terms of preventing dementia. We should all be creative. Every single one of us should be creative in some way. Whether you want to be creative mechanically by building something, sculpting, doing woodworking. I have so many patients that do woodworking and they absolutely love it, and it's so good for them, body and soul. If you want to, I believe in writing. I believe in writing in terms of the self-discovery. It's so good for so many reasons. So I want to encourage you to be creative, and I want to encourage you to go out of doors to stimulate that creativity. Alrighty, this next one is kind of interesting because it is something I'm focused on a lot, and that is smells. That is smells. And the reason I say that is because one of my favorite parts about writing is talking about the senses. One of the differences between good writing and mediocre writing is that good writing really kind of talks. First of all, it shows rather than tells, and the best way to show is to describe what a main character is seeing, but everybody does that. But also what they're smelling, what they're hearing, what they're touching, what they're tasting. So the five senses. And by far the easiest one to do that with, outside of sight obviously, is smell. So the other day my wife and I were taking a walk, and I was stopped to look to just focus on something, and my wife's like, well, what are you doing? And I said, you know something? I'm seeing what it smells like, and I'm really trying to focus on what it smells like. And this is also one of the reasons that people love to be out of doors, is because of the different smells. It turns out, very interestingly, that a good smell improves mood, and bad smells decrease mood. I think that you can kind of accept that kind of intuitively, but it's actually been studied as well. One of the smells that I like the most is the smell of pine. And it turns out that the smell of pine is because of chemical compounds called terpenes. And especially, excuse me, especially when in the sunshine, these terpenes can lead to, the smell of them can lead to improved relaxation, improved mood, they fight pain, they do all kinds of things. They're actually anti-inflammatory as well. I think that's so cool. You're sitting there in a pine grove and you're getting anti-inflammatory molecules being absorbed through the air into your lungs, and your health is being improved just by these terpene compounds which are in the air. Ask any aromatherapist what they think about the importance of smells in your health, and you'll get probably like 2 or 3 hour lecture. We all know that to be true. You know who knows this to be true? The people of Yankee Candle. And all these candle companies have come out with these scented candles. These are huge business in America. And what are the smells? Think about this now. What are the smells that they are using in their candles? Pines, lavender, let me see here, winterberry, the ocean. There's all these smells to remind us of being outdoors. So I think part of that is because, as our reliance on technology has gotten so significant, technology is pervasive in our society nowadays in 2022. So we're kind of, and the more we're reliant on technology, the more we're indoors. Think about that. We spend 10 hours as adults, 10 plus hours on average, in front of screens, 10 hours a day. So And I understand the necessity of that. I really do. You know, when I work as a physician, I'm sitting in front of a screen. When I'm writing as an author, I'm sitting in front of a screen. I love to watch college football, sitting in front of the screen. We do a lot of time, when I'm researching this talk, I'm sitting in front of a screen. So we're in front of screens a lot. But to counteract that, I think we really need to focus on getting out of doors. And so, you know, that's why this candle thing came in, because they're saying this as well, you know, if we can't go outdoors because we're, you know, slave to these screens, at least we can smell out of doors, and that helps. And it does help. It for sure does. But I think the real thing is just to go out and get that smell itself. As I was mentioning, when I write, I really like to focus on smells because, number one, anyone can know what a place looks like. When I'm writing, I really like to, in a scene, I really like to make sure people understand that I've been to this place, whatever that place is. When I was writing one of my books about, which was set in the Cinque Terre in Italy, I really wanted people to know that I'd spent a lot of time there. And so I was recalling the smells that they have. It turns out that smell is the most potent initiator of memory. I mean, some days I'll go back and I'll smell the smell of, I was just cutting a tree the other day, and the smell of the sawdust brought back this memory I had when I was a kid, which was a bad memory, unfortunately. It was a memory of, one of my brothers and I were cutting a tree, and my other brother showed up, and he told us that my cousin had died. But whenever I smell sawdust, I think of that. And I think about you, Tom Hogenkamp, but who was a wonderful, wonderful guy. But anyway, the point is that smells are powerful initiators of memory. They're also powerful initiators of mood. Bad smells can put us in a bad mood very, very quickly, and I'm particularly sensitive to that as well. So that's why we like to surround ourselves with good smells, these scented candles that we spend a lot of money on, but go outside, get the real thing. The smell of pine, the smell of lavender, the smell of lilacs, the smell of honeysuckle, the smell of green grass freshly cut, the smell of hay. These things are great. The smell of peat. The smell of ozone after a lightning storm. You know, these are the things that make outdoors being wonderful. And again, they're all part of this fresh air experience that my mom was talking about to me, 50 years ago. And she was way ahead of her time. And she was right about it. I'll have to tell her that next time I see her. I wanted to mention this this interesting thing. It's called Shinrin Yuri. I'm probably completely butchering that pronunciation, but it's a Japanese term. It basically translates to forest bathing. And in Japan, they actually have a national program to get people out into the forest to bathe in the forest. And I love the idea of that. I mean, if that doesn't kind of perfectly isn't a perfect microcosm of what I'm talking about today, forest bathing. You're sitting in this, you're in this forest, you're enjoying the sunlight, you're enjoying the smells, you're enjoying that wonderful color that you're being immersed in, you're exercising, you're meditating. All the good things about being outdoors are kind of called into our mind by this forest bathing. Shinrin Yuri. I'm killing that, I know I am. But again, look it up. It's wonderful and encouraged by the country of Japan for their citizens. You know, that's wonderful. One last thing, and I want to talk about physical health. Obviously, being outdoors is good for your physical health for all the reasons that we stated above. Plus, sunshine improves vitamin D. But there's something else. The sunshine actually improves your T cell activity, and T cells are important fighters of immunity. Being outdoors, you actually absorb some phytoncides, which are hormones or pheromones that are produced by plants that are actually absorbed into your body through breathing them in, and they actually improve immunity by unknown reasons. And that's what I'm going to leave you with here as I finish today. There's so much we don't know about the health benefits of being outdoors, but I think we all understand it from some type of kind of base level that we instinctually. Thanks again today. I really appreciate your attention and your viewing or listening. Get outdoors. Cheers.